Welcome to this new lecture. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the function overloading. Actually, function overloading is a feature of C++ where two functions or more than two functions having same name with different number of parameters or different type of parameters is known as function overloading. So in this lecture we are going to give an example of the function overloading. So through this example we will try to understand how can we implement function overloading in C++ language. So here you can see that we have two functions. One is a integer space add int comma int. So we have two parameters with integer types and the function name is add, while we have another function which has return type double, has the same name, okay, add, while the parameter types is different, which is double comma double. So we want these functions to add two numbers. So the first function will add the integer types of data, while the second function will add the double type of arguments or data or values. So these are actually, the prototypes we have declared or defined before the main function, and then in the main function we have called these two functions. Okay, so before going to explain the main function, let's discuss the definition of these functions which are defined just below the main function. Okay, here you can see the first prototype was integer add with two parameter of type integer. So we have declared a variable x and a variable y, and both the variable has type integer. Okay, so this is the parameter list of integer type with name add. Okay, and this function is going to add these two variables and return the answer to the main function where we will call this function. Okay, the second function was, this is the first add function, this is the second add function, first and second. Okay, so the second add function has return type double. Its name is add, obviously. So in the parameter list you can see we have variable x and y, but their types are double. Okay, and what actually this function is going to return is the addition of these two variables, these two parameters, and returning it through this gateway to the main function, or where we will call this function. Okay, so we have two functions now with same name. This is also add, this is also add function. Okay, so both of these functions have same name, add. Okay, but the difference between these two functions is actually the parameter list. And what is the difference in parameter list is the type of parameters, not the number now actually. Okay, because these both function has two parameters in their header of the function, but the type is different. So we can say that we have overloaded the name add with another add function. So this concept is actually known as function overloading. So you are now allowed to do it not only for two times, but you can increase it to multiple types, and all those functions, I mean, if you write down even if you define even 10 or 15 functions with the same name, but those functions shall be different from these functions and among each other in type of parameters or number of parameters. Okay, so for the function overloading, these two properties must be implemented, that either the type of parameters shall be different, or the number of parameters shall be different. So then we can implement the function overloading. Okay, and for another property is that name of the function is very necessary to be the same, okay, for each and every function you define in function overloading concept. And another point which is need to be remembered is that return type has no effect on the function overloading. So it means that even if you write down the different return types, so it has no effect, or similar return types, it has no effect on the concept of implementation, on the concept of the function overloading. And this concept is also known as polymorphism, which we will cover in the advanced topics of the C++ language. Okay. So what actually the application of these two function we can see in the main function here. Okay, so in the body of the main function we have declared the integer sum variable. Okay, so this is a variable name identifier, so it's up to you. You can name it with another spelling or name. Okay, so the type of integer sum is integer, is being assigned with value which will be returned from this function. Okay, add is a function name, and 4, 4 are the arguments that we are passing from here, and these arguments are a type of integer. Okay, and the second statement we have declared the double sum variable, and type is double. Okay, so the type of this variable is double, and we have called the add function with arguments 4.4, 4.4. So these are the arguments of type double, and these are the arguments of type integer. And then we have printed out on the screen the value of integer sum and the value of double sum. Okay, so when you execute your program, and the execution starts from the main function, and execution actually reserves the space in the memory for main function. Here you can see, for example, this is the main memory, and the main memory we have a reserved spaces for the main function, and in the body of the main function we are calling two other functions which are add, but the difference between these two functions is their parameter list. Okay, so actually compiler or the execution differentiate between these two functions by their type of parameter list or number of parameter list. Okay, so in the first statement here you can see the execution will call a function of the integer type. Okay, so it means that we have made the program kind of intelligent program, where the execution will understand that here we are passing the integer type, so therefore from the main function the add function shall be called, but that one which is defined with the integer type of parameter list. Okay, and in the second function, in the second statement, you can see we have passing the two arguments of type double. Okay, so in this case the execution actually will call the function of type where the parameter list has double type. Okay, so in this way the execution, actually the processing, will automatically decide from the type or number of the parameters that which function has to be called. Okay, so in this way we are going to embed the intelligence in our program, that if you have introduced the function with same name, but if their arguments, the type of the parameter list or number of parameter list is different, so it depends on the calling of a function that which function should be activated during execution. So this concept is actually known as function overloading. We can also increase the number of the the prototype or definition of user defined function. by introducing some other add functions for other data types as well. So similarly, we can define more functions with the concept of the function overloading. Just like this one, we have implemented the add concept here with function overloading. We can also include function overloading for the multiplication purposes, for different types, even for different number of parameter list. Okay, we can also include the user defined function for division purposes. So we may introduce a single function name with the number of parameters, with different number of parameters, with different number of types. So in this way we can implement function overloading where we have required this one. So it actually make it easier for the programmer to remember the name of functions, and the programmer just pass the arguments irrespective of their numbers or irrespective of their types. So in this way it will become more easier for the programmer to implement or to solve the problem using the C++ programming language. So thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have any question, so please ask me in the comments below, and we will try inshallah to answer all those questions. Thank you so much once again.